You ever feel like you're playing a game, but you don't actually know the rules, especially when it comes to money? Well, in this explainer, we're diving into a book that basically hands you the secret rule book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So, the whole book kicks off with this really powerful contrast. Imagine you have two father figures. One is your poor dad, super educated, PhD, the works, but always struggling with money. Then you have the rich dad, never even finished 8th grade, but he ends up becoming this incredibly successful businessman. So, which one of those paths sounds more familiar to you? That advice from poor dad? That's what most of us hear our whole lives, right? But it's the rich dad's path that actually leads to wealth. And that's really what this is all about. It's a question about the financial blueprint we've all been handed. All right, so lesson 1. Rich Dad's first lesson wasn't something you'd find in a classroom. No way. He had a young Robert Kiyosaki, the author, working for just 10 cents an hour. And you might think, that's insane. But it was all to teach him a powerful life lesson, firsthand. See, he wanted Robert to really feel the trap, the one that gets its hooks into most people's lives. This cycle he called the rat race. And it all starts with two really basic emotions. First, there's fear, the fear of not having money, right? That's what pushes you to work so hard. Then you get your paycheck, and what happens? Greed, or maybe just desire for a better life. It kicks in. So you spend it all. And that just leads you right back to needing more money, which means you have to work even harder. And that cycle just repeats over and over. Rich Dad explained that just earning more money, getting a bigger paycheck, it doesn't solve the problem. In fact, it often just makes the rat race spin faster. The real solution, he said, is to stop working for money and learn how to make money work for you. So how do you actually escape? Well, it starts by learning the simple language of money that the rich understand. And it really just begins with two fundamental concepts. Okay, first up, an asset. It's not a complicated definition, not at all. An asset is simply something that puts money in your pocket. That's it. Think of it as a little money-making machine working for you 24/7. And then, of course, you've got a liability. This is the exact opposite. It's anything that takes money out of your pocket. Simple, right? But this distinction is absolutely crucial. Now, here's where things get really interesting and kind of controversial. The rich focus their entire lives on buying those assets we just talked about. But the middle class, we often acquire liabilities that we think are assets. And look at the top of that list. Your home, a new car. These things cost you money every single month. And this quote really says it all. The crucial point here is that wealth isn't just about how much money you make. It's about how much you keep, and more importantly, how hard that money is working for you. Okay, so understanding assets is step 1, but applying that knowledge, that requires a couple of key shifts in how you think. Let's get into the rich person's playbook. Strategy number 1, mind your own business. And what he means by this is that there's a huge difference between your profession and your business. Your profession, that's your job, what you do from 9 to 5. But your business, that's your asset column. To explain this, the founder of McDonald's, Ray Kroc, once asked a group of business students a simple question. What business am I in? What do you think they said? Yeah, you guessed it, hamburgers. That's what everyone thinks. Naturally, they all said he was in the hamburger business. But Kroc's real answer, it revealed the secret to his entire empire. He said, I'm not in the hamburger business. My business is real estate. See, Kroc knew the real money wasn't in selling burgers. It was in owning the valuable land that every single franchise was built on. That was his real business. So the lesson for us is, yeah, keep your day job, but start building your own asset column on the side. All right, strategy number 2. This one might change how you look at your job forever. Work to learn, don't work for money. Kiyosaki tells the story about a talented journalist he met. Her writing was amazing, but her books just weren't selling. So he gave her some advice. He said, I'm a best-selling author, not a best-writing author. You need to learn sales. Well, she was offended. She said she would never stoop so low. And that's the tragedy, right? She was one skill away from greatness, but her pride got in the way. The point is, the rich don't over-specialize. They learn a little about a lot of things. Skills like sales, marketing, managing cash flow, dealing with people, these are way more valuable in the long run than just getting a bigger paycheck today. But here's the thing. Even with all this knowledge, so many people fail to act. Why? Well, Rich Dad says it's because of 5 internal roadblocks that hold people back. And this is where we have to get really honest with ourselves. There's fear. The fear of losing money is just paralyzing for most people. There's cynicism. You know, that little voice that tells you, what if it doesn't work? Then there's pure laziness, which he says you can cure by asking, how can I afford it? Instead of just saying, I can't. You've got bad habits, like paying everyone else before you pay yourself. And finally, ego, pretending you know it all instead of being willing to learn. These are the real enemies. So if you take one thing away from all of this, let it be this. Building wealth isn't just about what you do on the outside. It's about training your mind, your single most important asset, to see opportunities, to manage risk, and to think like the rich. Look, this book doesn't give you a magic formula, but it gives you something much more powerful, a fundamental shift in your mindset. And it leaves you with one question to carry forward. How are you going to invest in your greatest asset?